Welcome to another episode of OG55. I'm joined by the Disney Italiano and Mr. Webb, our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Today we're talking about concept art from Disney. The way they release concept art so early in their process, you know, how we get this artwork, you know, at the expo and what have you, years before the finalized product, a much different scenario than what we see over at Universal. Is this a good move, or is Disney setting themselves up for fan disappointment? That is the topic of today's OG55. Let's get it. Welcome aboard, everybody. Today we are talking all about concept art. The way Disney releases this stuff, is it smart business, or are they setting themselves up for fans to be pissed off and mad? We're gonna talk about it. Before we do, George, welcome back on the show, my man. How you doing?
Doing good. I love talking this stuff with you fellas. It's what we do best here on Orange Grove 55. And this is a topic that you brought to my attention, OG, and we talked a little bit about it on Capture the Magic. We did a live show with Jared, which was phenomenal. Love.
Dude, we had the best conversation with him. At the end of this video, stick around after the Asian Queen. There will be a link at the very, very end. Make sure you click on it because that live show was an absolute banger. And I want to thank Jared again. He was an awesome host. We had a great conversation. Sorry, George. Go ahead, sir.
No, not at all. But anyways, yes, if you'd like to find me on social media, you could do so on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Look at George over here making it look so damn easy. You know what I'm saying, George? Making it look easy, dude. You know, sticky news and info, bro. Mr. Michael Webba is back. He is back. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you guys so much for having me back on. It's always a pleasure to be here on the channel, on the show of OG55. You can find me, Mr. Webba, on Instagram and Threads, Mr. Webba at Cobweb91, and then on Twitter or X, Mr. Webba at Webslinger760.
There we go. Hey, George, should we pivot?
I'ma let you pivot.
You know, it's always good to pivot, but I think we need two.
You kind of do, because you kind of get a little distracted, right?
I'ma let you pivot.
Yeah, no, she's great. Hey Yoon is awesome. She's absolutely awesome. She actually shared one of my Instagram stories. I was like giving her and Armani White, the rapper in that song, some love in my story. She actually shared the story. I couldn't even believe it. So yeah,
we're fanboying out, weren't you?
Oh yeah, dude. And of course that means we're gonna get married, of course, right? Obviously. No. But let's go ahead and dive into our topic, this concept art conversation. Like you said, we had this conversation in depth with Capture the Magic, Jared. Again, a big shout out to Jared. But here's the thing, right? It came up where it's like, Disney has a very different approach with concept art, you know, and I think a lot of the reason why they have to release this art so early is because of that D23 fan event. You know, there's an expectation that comes along with the expo where Disney has to get on that stage. You know, Josh D'Amaro or whoever that park president is has to get up on that stage and give the fans something. You have to, you know, something in the future. What's coming next for Disney parks? So a lot of times what happens is they release concept art, right, for the expo for fans, which is cool. I'm glad that they do. I mean, honestly, it's a cool little gift to fans, okay? That's awesome. But the downside to that is they release the art so early that during the design process, which is years after that announcement, you inevitably make changes along the way, right? Like in the 2019 expo, we had the Pandy just a few months after that. The 2019 expo was in August, September. And by February 2020, we were in full blown Pandy mode. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and obviously things had to change. So that's the downside for Disney's approach, is that when you announce it and you show this concept art, fans get mentally married for right or wrong to that art, like the Epcot stuff and all that. And now when the outcome and the reality doesn't match that artwork, fans get pissed. Now, Universal doesn't have that problem. Universal doesn't have Comcast Con. You know, they don't have an expo, you know, the ultimate Comcast fan event or anything, right? They don't have that. So they can do what they did like for Fast and Furious, was it Tokyo Drift or no, Hollywood Drift, I think it's called, over there in Hollywood, where you can basically start the damn thing, construction, and like halfway through it, you make your announcement. So fans are less disappointed because the artwork is pretty much like set in stone because they're already building the thing. So George, I'll start with you. I mean, what do you think, man? I mean, should Disney kind of rethink the strategy? Because, you know, the fans, while we are kind of like a small minority compared to the normies at large, it does create a lot of negative sentiment online. That negativity kind of spreads. You know, is it worth it for Disney to even bother with that stuff?
So I'll start off with this past D23 Ultimate Fan event that OG, you and I attended, thanks to our good friend Lucas Kim.
Yes.
Without him, it wouldn't have been possible for us to go. So
Lucas, we're going to be thanking you literally forever. So just
forever,
be prepared.
literally. Yeah. So, and don't get me wrong, I had a great time. I enjoyed, you know, going to the parks experience. You and I, like, we were like in kind of like a Disney high, if you will, because we're having like all this like information thrown at us as like, oh, we're getting Monsters Inc. Oh, we're getting Villains Land, Pandora, Coco, like all this good stuff. And it's fine in the moment. But then afterwards, you're like, okay, we're not hearing or getting anything more. We don't know any opening dates. We still don't know where a lot of this stuff is even going.
Right.
And it's like, it's always that question of like when, and I get it, you know, Disney isn't obligated to tell us every single thing, every single minute of every single day. But when you live in a social media world where Disney is putting out these announcements literally to the world, you have to obviously have this kind of expectation towards your fans that it's like, okay, well, you're giving them a little taste, but we want more. And sometimes, you know, too much is too much because there's just not enough. And it's like, I would rather not kind of know if they're going to do that. It's almost like dangling a carrot to a reindeer. And it's like, you keep on pulling back. Well, what's going to happen to the reindeer? They're going to get pissed and chop your hand off, you know? So it's
well, and here's the thing. Disney has been doing this for a long time. It's very easy, I think, for fans to kind of get into this mindset of like current Disney is super bad. It's like, you know, it's all big bad, big bad current Disney. Current Disney makes a lot of mistakes. They mess up all the time. I'm not like excusing their mistakes. They fumble the bag constantly, but this isn't necessarily a new Disney thing. I remember as a kid, they released the Westcott art back then. There really wasn't online, you know, but it was a lot like the Disney news magazines and stuff. They had all these articles and spreads about Westcott and all the beautiful concept art and the beautiful concept art for California Adventure. And a lot of that concept art never came to pass. I remember seeing concept art for the Disney Decade and the Baby Herman buggy ride that never came. I remember seeing concept art for the Indiana Jones Adventure, how there was going to be a minecart roller coaster and the Jungle Cruise and the Disneyland Railroad were going to all share the Indiana Jones Adventure show building. It, like, literally, you were going to be able to see the Jungle Cruise go through the Indiana Jones show building. Didn't happen. That was concept art they dropped. So a lot of this stuff happens, and it's been happening for a really, really long time. And I think as Disney fans, we kind of like, it's easy to look at that stuff, go, that's dope, that's badass, and then it never happens, and you get you know.
So it's like, it's almost like a dopamine kind of effect where it's like, oh, it's like, yes, I really can't wait to see that in person. You know, I want to see like that concept art, you know, become a reality, and then when we don't get it, it's like, oh damn, like that looked freaking awesome. Like, why can't I would rather not know, and then they just kind of do the universal effect, so to speak, put up the walls and have like our imaginations kind of say, oh, these walls are going up for a reason, but why? And then whatever they announce to us at that time, it's like, okay, well, at least we know what we're getting, because literally they're announcing it while they're building it, you know? So that's my take on it. But Ebba, I'm actually curious to know what you have to say because you didn't get a chance to have the conversation. So I'm curious to see like where your headspace is at with that.
Right. Well, I mean, you guys made great points. And I do see where like Disney and even the fans come from. We're like, hey, we had this great idea, this concept art for this really amazing attraction or show. We want to show the fans, get you guys super excited. The fans feed off that, like we said, with that dopamine hit. They're like, yeah, this is gonna be sick, right? And then like, nothing ever like shows up, or it's like downgraded from what the concept art like everybody's thinking about in their heads it could look like, right? Now I feel recently Disney has kind of been doing this across the board, except DCL with like the studio, Marvel, Lucasfilm, right? Disney, like they keep it. They are announcing these projects, and then some of them, or a lot of them, don't even happen, or
Sure.
to like a lesser extent. So, and even now with the D23 stuff, the past couple of years, and I feel like Disney's been on this train where they're like, we're excited to share and announce a project that we're going to work on, and it's gone. So they need to kind of get out of that kind of funk there, because personally, as a fan, and I would rather just, and with any company, I would rather just, like what George, you were saying, all of a sudden walls go up. Oh, I wonder what's going on there. And then maybe halfway through construction or something, so, hey guys, we're making some magic right now. This is coming to you. This is what you're getting, right? That's what I personally like to see, instead of getting something. Okay, now I get it. Can't get married to the concept art, but it still gives you a general idea of what is going to go there and what it could look like. I would rather just, you already have started to build something and then show us your concept art later of what that is, because you already started. The budget is there. The construction workers are there actively building the thing. I mean, even right now, going back to Legoland, currently, yes, there was a news article and they did get approval from the city council to build the coaster, and there was a artist rendering of like kind of a concept art, but they haven't officially released any concept art, and there's already construction going on. So that, and like Universal, I would rather just have them, not really announce anything and then just announce it later when they're already set to go, budget's in place, stuff is greenlit, they know what they're building, and they're building it. That's what I want to see.
So would you say for D23, obviously still have the fan event, but like of how they have, where they talk about like the studio stuff, they have the exhibits, they have the Walt Disney archives and everything. But speaking of just the parks and experiences, would you axe that presentation and just maybe do like a WDI kind of like walkthrough, sort of like how they do in the convention center, where they show like the models after the fact that they already made the announcement of like building stuff, or
Right.
you stay away from it altogether?
See, that's hard, right? Because you guys remember when Toontown was announced that they were going to have the like that they were going to redo it, right?
Right.
Here's my question: why wasn't that announced at D23? They just announced it on social media. Why was the Tarzan Treehouse thing not announced at D23? Yeah, it's a smaller project, but it's still a project, in the park that's happening. So it's just like now with the age of social media, some things Disney is announcing online, and then some things are keeping for the big D23 event, which I get because some projects are bigger than others. They want to have a spectacle. And I will say this past D23 was really great. And Josh DeMauro said, well, everything is, going to happen, which is great because it sounds like they're learning their lesson from like not, announcing stuff that won't happen. So I see that's the hard thing is that I don't know if like it should even have a D23 event, because now you have this cycle of expectation from the fans that, okay, every 2 years we're going to get some big announcement, right? Some big crazy announcement. And with the age of social media, personally, I still get excited over just seeing the online announcements. I mean, hell, even with D23, I was working that day. What was it, Saturday? That was the parks convention. I was working Saturday, and I was just seeing the announcements on like through like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. And I was still I was so excited for it. I I think that the D23 event, like the presentation itself, is just where it's like the super diehard fans will go and just be excited together, and that kind of makes the experience, which I understand.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, if you're going to announce something, I think just be more consistent on what your announcements are going to be. Again, like the Toontown, the Toontown thing. I think that was a big enough project that should have been held off for D23 because it was announced like a couple months before D23. Like to me, that made no sense at all.
Yeah, and here's the interesting thing too is it's kind of crazy because a lot of times they make these announcements, and I don't think they really know the path forward. So we've been talking a lot on this channel about Pandora coming to DCA.
Right.
Where is that going? Do they know where it's going? I mean, and it sounds like I'm joking. I'm really seriously, I'm seriously asking, do they know where it's going? Is that why we haven't heard? And so that this is the problem that we have with the expo and with these announcements is that they announce it to get the applause, to get the excitement, because, you know, this is the plan or the expectation that this thing is coming. But behind the scenes, though, they have no idea. They don't know where Pandora is going. They don't know where Coco's going yet. So now we're shown this concept art. We're given a promise, and now they have to figure a way to put this thing into the park. It leads to problems.
And
right.
And also too, there are some things that's out of Disney's control. For instance, with the new Cars Land area that's coming into Magic Kingdom,
right. Disney
had to reassess their whole plan, I guess, with between like the water management district and what have you. They submitted Disney submitted their plans to them. The water management district has to get back to them within 30 days. We still haven't heard anything. I don't know if the 30 days are close to being up yet. I'm not sure. But again, if things have to change and Disney has to maneuver stuff, again, out of their control, but figure all that stuff out first before you just go and step on stage making these announcements. This should have been a conversation Tomorrow should have had with the Florida Water Management District before making the assumption, oh yeah, we're building a Cars Land right in the middle of Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America, right, which then is going to be adjacent further back with Villains. Because now this doesn't delay Cars. Nothing's delayed quite yet, but as far as building, but it delayed the notion of for them to start, which then would trickle down to possibly delaying Villains. So why not figure all this stuff out first before making that announcement? Because you just want to try to keep the fans happy. And again, we were excited when we heard all these announcements, but what good is having that 5-minute effect of being excited when after that 5 minutes, it's like, okay, well, now what?
Now what? Exactly. And there's going to be things, to be fair, there are like that. I agree with you 100%, by the way, George. I mean, the water management thing, that stuff should have been worked out previously before he made the announcement. But see, Tomorrow needed a win at the expo. He couldn't wait for that. He couldn't wait for that because he's running for CEO, and he knows he had to deliver at this expo because the last couple expos he did were flops with all this blue sky what if stuff. So there's a lot of that at play here, you know? So now he has to throw everything at us, including the kitchen sink, and then figure it out on the back end, right? And that's what I think we're seeing a lot with this Pandora thing. I really don't think, look, obviously there are some ideas I think they have for where they want to go. I don't think they've secured a location yet. I really don't. I think they're still working the kinks out with that, which is crazy to think when they've already made the announcement and Tomorrow promised that this thing will be open at the end of the 5 years.
Yeah. You know? Well, and here's the thing too, expectations, right? When you announce something and you have a concept art, whether it's online or D23, you're now putting, especially the hardcore fandom, you're putting this expectation in their heads now. Okay. Now they're thinking about, okay, where is it going? How big is it going to be? How much money is it going to cost? Right. You know, what's going to be in it? Let's just say, right, for the Rivers of America at Magic Kingdom and the Cars theme, let's say they never announced that. And all of a sudden one day you go to Magic Kingdom, boom, walls up all across North America. I mean, not North America.
That's impressive. Ambitious.
Sorry, guys. Walls up over Rivers of America, right? I'd say, oh, you know, what are they doing here? Now, here's the kicker, though. Obviously, yes, people got mad about after D23, they found out Cars was replacing the Rivers of America, right? But what's worse, finding that out or seeing something, completely new after some amount of years in that area of a new land, right?
Right.
So, because at that point, you as a fan or even as just a regular guest, you don't know what to expect. You don't, unless it's like halfway through and they tell you, kind of like what Universal did with Epic Universe. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what's going to go there, how much it's going to cost. So you're not like, oh my god. I mean, yeah, you could be like theorizing, what could go there, but now you're not like Disney isn't beholden to this expectation from the fans of what is going to be what in that part of the park.
Right.
So
No.
I think that's a problem also with showing the concept art too early. And then, like right now, not even starting the projects. George, was it Walt Disney World where they just did a photo of starting construction or something? They had shovels in the dirt as like their official construction project. I think it was for
Tropical Americas.
Yeah. Right. So it's like, okay, the expo was in
August.
We're now almost mid-January, right? So they said 5 years. Okay, I get it. 2030 would be about 5 years. But it's like, yeah, I mean, you could have been like 4 months into the project by now or so.
I feel like Tropical Americas, and I'm glad you brought that up, Ed, but I feel like Tropical Americas is really, so far, the only project that's kind of maintained everything that they said was going to happen. I feel like that's the one where it's like it's on time. Everything right now is moving smoothly. Everything is kind of falling into like a round where the opening date is going to be. And, thank God for that, because as of everything else with Pandora, with Coco, we know we know where Cars is going, and we have a good idea around the area of where Villains is going to go, but we still don't know the fate of like when they actually can start. So yeah, Tropical Americas really is the only, and also Avengers.
And those have been talked about years prior. Like I think that the Tropical Americas thing was hinted at the 2022 Expo, I believe it was. Remember, it was part of that Blue Skies, or
it was hinted at the 2022 Expo, and then it kind of fleshed out a little bit better at Destination D23, where it went from Moana and Zootopia to Indiana Jones and Encanto.
Yeah. So and Avengers have been going on since 2017 or something. It's been crazy. Go ahead, Eva.
Right. No. So okay. So I'm glad you brought the Avengers. Look at that full circle here. And going off Avengers, I want to bring up to you guys like the excitement level of these projects. Right. I mean, yes, overall we're excited for these projects, but it's like with the Avengers thing, since the announcement, it's taking how long to get that? My excitement, I'm like, yeah, cool, it's coming, but I'm not like hyped for it because it's like it's been so long since then that I'm like, okay, we're finally getting what I thought we should have been getting in the first place. Maybe that's just me being like, like a spoiled pass holder brat or something. But it's just it's been so long.
Are you being a keyhole, bro?
Yep, be a magic keyhole,
There you go.
But it's been so long. So when you make these announcements way ahead of time, and then it's like 8 years later, it's like I don't know, like do people's excitement die down for this thing because it's like, okay, am I going to get it when I'm still alive?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the diehard fans, I do think that that is a thing for sure. I think because we follow this stuff so closely in this space. I mean, even I feel a little bit of that, Ebba. Like to be honest with you, with Avengers, I'm like, okay, it is what it is. I'm more focused on Avatar and Pandora and all that new stuff. I've heard about Avengers for years, and I'm kind of like, okay.
I think honestly, the more that they keep talking about it, the worse it is. I think at this point, we don't want to hear about it anymore. Just build the damn thing so we can ride it and move on with our lives.
It's like a relationship where your spouse promises, "Oh, I'm going to change this, that, and the other." Okay, cool. The words are nice, but let's see some action here. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of how it is with Disney. It's like, okay, the words are great, but let's see some action. Let's see some actual work being done.
Yeah, exactly. And so George, going back to your question about the D23, I think personally, I could probably do without the D23 park presentation thing personally, because again, I see the announcements online. I'm still excited for it. Like, it doesn't change my excitement either way. Now, could they still have like the convention thing there? Yeah, absolutely. Have all the other panels for like the like animation and voice actors and and whatever else that they have there. Yeah, I think that'd be so cool. But for these huge announcements, I mean,
I'd be for it if they made the like official announcements after the fact. The walls are up and they're actually doing the construction. Like, if Tomorrow came on stage and said, "Oh, a lot of people have been noticing we have the walls up over here. They've been seeing the construction workers. They've been seeing the cranes. Let me give you a sneak peek at what that's becoming." That would be cool.
Right. Now, George, to that point, maybe D23 for the parks presentation should be a special thing where they do that when they have a lot of big projects in that type of in the space there, right? The 5 years, right? You got they got the China stuff, you got the Paris stuff, Walt Disney World, and at Disneyland. Maybe they should just wait until they have a multitude of projects at once to announce that stuff that they're already doing, that walls are already up. So that way everything's confirmed. Hey, Georgie. Hey, OG, this is what's coming to these parks, man. Official 100%, bro. You're going to get this, right? And you expect this and this in about 3 years or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think that would be a good idea. Maybe not have D23 like for the parks presentation every 2 years, but have it when you have a sufficient amount of projects built up and that you can officially confirm are happening, are being constructed in the moment.
Yeah, it leads to a lot of disappointment, a lot of setting up, and then you know what I'm saying? It does. Yeah. It does. And not to say the fans are completely without blame here. Sometimes the fans are unreasonable. We talk about the fandom a lot here on the channel because it is good to be a little self-aware. Sometimes the fans are a little bit ridiculous, you know what I'm saying? But like on this, I think it's, I think Disney sets themselves up for a lot of fan animosity. There's a reason why Universal doesn't have that problem, at least in this situation, because they don't release concept art 6 years before the thing is built.
Right. Well, to your point, right? Kind of going just real quick. I just want to go back to go to video games for a second. Back when E3 was like a huge thing, I would watch every E3 every year to watch all like the video game panels and presentations and stuff like that. Nothing annoyed me more as a fan than seeing a CGI trailer for a game that wasn't coming out until for like 3 to 4 years. Yeah. Why am I seeing this now? Like, now I have to wait. Now I know this game's coming, but I have to wait this long for it to come.
Yeah, and your hype is dead before it comes out then.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, this is so annoying. So hopefully if maybe Disney, like I said, they can have like once every 5 or 6 years. Because here's the thing. These projects from start to finish, like the conceptual phase and all that, take a long time to the idea, the artistry, the budget, all that takes a long time. And I feel like they announce this stuff when they're still doing that. You know?
Okay. Speaking of that too, Ebba, I wanted to get your thoughts on it because this was also part of the conversation that we were having on Capture the Magic as well. Tomorrow said everything that he announced that night at the parks experience presentation would take 5 years. Everything. Do you feel that was a little bit risky of an ambitious to say everything is going to be done within 5 years? Because just speaking to the projects for Disneyland alone, Pandora, whether it's going in Hollywoodland or the Simba parking lot, whether Coco is going behind the Pixar promenade where the Incredicoaster is, they're going to have to move the parade floats. Are they still even going to have a parade over at DCA if Pandora is going into Hollywoodland? All these questions are being asked, and yet nothing could be altered until they even start the Eastern Gateway project. They have to create all these parking structures in order to even use the parking lots. That didn't even start yet. So how and I was telling OG this, that Pandora down at Animal Kingdom was announced in 2011. It officially opened on May 27th, 2017. So how realistically, and that's just Pandora, but you're going to have Pandora and everything else is going to get done in 5 years. Realistically, how accurate do you even see that if they didn't even start the Eastern Gateway?
There's only one possibility I'm going to give, at least in my mind. Only one possibility, guys. Okay. Or let's say two possibilities. Okay. One is that that's not happening for one. Number two is that with all these projects for Disneyland, at least, including the Eastern Gateway, they have all hands on deck working around the clock. You have the Avengers stuff happening at the same time, the Coco stuff happening at the same time, the Eastern Gateway happening at the same time, Pandora happening at the same time, and you have these workers working like clockwork, dude.
Well, and here's another thing too that we have to understand. It doesn't necessarily have to be black or white either, all or nothing, right? So, for example, you can do some of the work without the Eastern Gateway. You can start it. Like, for example, let's just say, hypothetically, Coco. We're gonna get like a little Mexican village back there where Monsters Inc. is, right? Theme Park Obsession actually has a great video out on this right now that I checked out this morning. It was fantastic. Check his stuff out. I think it's his newest video, if I'm not mistaken. But he was talking about the possibility of turning that whole back area where PhilharMagic, Monsters Inc., and the old Hollywood and Dine building and the bus load area into a Mexican village and adding the Coco boat ride there, okay? Now, let's just say they do that. Hypothetical. Well, the only thing you need the Eastern Gateway project technically for is that it's to dip into the bus load unload area. Everything else, though, you can demolish all that stuff in the park now, and you can demolish and build now. It's just when you dip into those Disneyland forward areas that you need the gateway. So you can start it technically before the gateway. Now, even Symbol Lot, you can kind of do maybe not as easy, but you don't have to close the whole lot for that. You can cordon off certain areas of the parking, maintain the parking, but have them be like 5 or 6 acres cordoned off or whatever it is at a time while they work on the gateway. So it can also be that, you know?
See,
Yeah,
what's kind of interesting with Coco is for what that they're just describing it just being a single attraction, a boat ride, a dark ride, which is supposed to be immersive to the equivalents of Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion, which is great, perfect. We need it, especially in DCA.
Yeah.
But for something that I don't understand why they're waiting to start it in 2026. Yeah. And I get it that, you know, you could have the argument of saying, okay, well, they're starting the Avengers first, but I don't see why they would have to wait a whole year to even start the construction now, unless something else is tied with it.
It could be they're waiting for the Easter Gateway. They could be waiting for that, or it also could be financial, spreading this stuff out. Disney does this a lot where they want to spread it out over various fiscal periods, and they're timing it certain ways to impact certain fiscal periods. You know what I'm saying, and not to have all of it. Because if you do all of it at once, you're like front loading those fiscal periods where like those first few periods or whatever it is are going to get like hammered hard, right? So maybe they want to they don't want to have everything start now. They're spacing them out for that reason. And that's just a guess, but.
Well, that's the thing though, OG, is that like I get what you're saying, but at the same time, Josh D'Amaro gave themselves a 5-year constraint.
Yeah.
And with the Coco ride, we have, besides it's being a ride, we don't know if they're going to add a Mexican village. We don't know where it's going, how big it's going to be. You know, yeah. Avengers Campus is like really the only thing that we got a lot of concrete concept artwork for, and how much it's going to expand. And even Avatar, that thing looks huge. George, you're saying that pretty much your Pandora took like 7 years to build, basically. How long is ours going to take to build? And Josh D'Amaro saying all this is going to get done in 5 years? That's the problem I have. And it's like, okay, well, even with the Coco and Avengers thing, you can start that now, yeah, but then you're still adding more capacity. So would you still need the Eastern Gateway project to happen? that's just kind of where I'm at in my head. Maybe not. Maybe you might have extra parking somewhere else. I don't know, but that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I think that timeline. I think everything's going to happen. I think, well, obviously Pandora has to happen because of James Cameron. That he has too much power at that studio in Hollywood in general. That's going to happen for sure. But I think it's all going to happen. But I don't think that 5-year timeline is going to stick. I think Tomorrow did that because he heard the complaints for the last couple expos that he wasn't giving concrete plans and he wasn't giving timelines. So he threw timelines out there, knowing by the time the reality hits, he's long gone. Like either he's CEO or he's out of the company, basically. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And this is the problem. Like, let's say he stays in the company, right? That timeline does not match up. Fans are going to light his ass a new one. You know?
Oh yeah,
and here's the, like, yeah, and I'm not trying to be mean to the guy, but it's like if that's not a realistic timeline, you shouldn't give the timeline. And this is going back to the concept art and to the announcements. If you don't have a for sure like project and timeline that you know it can be finished by and whatnot, in my opinion, don't say anything.
Yes,
that's my opinion.
Oh, I agree with you, Eva. I completely agree with you. But you know, he's desperate. I think he was desperate at that expo because he needed the win. Yeah. And he's running for CEO, you know, which I don't think he's going to get it, but he wants to get it. So he figured, you know what, I'll throw it out there. And you know what, if it doesn't happen, well, that's going to be in 3 or 4 years from now anyway. And either I'm going to leave the company or I'm going to be the next CEO. And you will see that, by the way. These executives do not stick around when they run for the top spot and they don't get it. They go to other companies. Tomorrow will not stay the parks chief, and he will not stay in the company if he doesn't get that CEO position. I'm telling you that right now. He will leave because if there's no way up for him, he's not going to stay. Now, if they reinstate the president position and he becomes the president, okay, then obviously he'll stay for that. But if they don't, and Dana Walden gets CEO, he's gone. He's gone.
And here's my other concern too. I mean, I know that you guys know more about this than I do, but once Iger is gone, couldn't the next CEO just step in and whatever project? Yeah, current project will still get finished, but maybe let's say, you know, I don't know, Coco was planned to go, but now they're like, Coco, nah, let's scrap that, put something else. I mean, isn't that a concern for all the projects that were announced at this past D23?
I think the D23 projects are too far. I think by the time the CEO comes in, because Bob Iger, when does he leave, George? It's like 2026, right?
I believe the end of 2026, I believe.
Yeah, so by the time the end of 26 comes around, this stuff is already like, I mean, Coco will already have been started. Hopefully Pandora would have already been. So I think I think the expo stuff is safe. But I mean, anything else is on the table, bro. Like, you're right. I mean, anything else, this new CEO can come in and make changes, and they usually do. Anytime in corporate America, even at a normal job, like an office job, you'll notice when you get a new manager, like a new team manager or whatever, they come in and they do a lot of changes. They want to make their imprint fast and early. You know what I'm saying? It happens every single time. So when this CEO comes in, whoever it is, it's probably going to be Dana Walden, but it could be someone from the outside the company. Who knows? When they come in, they are going to make a lot of changes. I mean, even recently with Bob Iger, we saw that when he came back and took over from Chapek again. He came in and he was doing all kinds of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So any person that goes in there, they will absolutely be making changes. But yeah, I think the expo stuff is safe just because of the timeline with when Iger will leave. I just think that I think it's too far in the process at that point. But we'll see. Everything else is on the table, though. You never know. So yeah, excellent conversation, gentlemen. Absolutely excellent conversation. Mr. Italiano, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. And Mr. Eva, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter, which is Mr. Webber at Webslinger760. You can also find me on Instagram and Threads, which is Mr. Webber at Cobweb91, and here on Orange Grove 55.
And you can also find him at the club.
Woke up looking for the broccoli.
There you go, Mr. Eva over at the club. Bubbling at Dublin's. Bubbling at Dublin's. Everybody, thank you so much for watching this episode of OG55. Comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we talked about today. Concept art, expectation versus reality, how Disney handles that compared to Universal. Should they change that up? How does it affect the D23 Expo? All these projects, Pandora, Coco, the Cars Land coming to Magic Kingdom. We would love to hear from you. We're going to end this video like we always end this video with the Queen, Asian Queen, with 3 E's on Instagram. Here she.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.